Jill Starley-Grainger. And Jill, the Prime Minister this morning, first things first, he suggested that we are going to suffer some sort of effect from this third wave currently sweeping across Europe. People, if they've got holidays booked, are going to be thinking this isn't going to happen.
Absolutely. And I think 17th of May was always an extremely optimistic date, given the vaccination rates around the world and how the cases and all these new waves keep developing. So it was always very optimistic. I would be surprised even if the next date in June is a date when international travel can be opened in any real and significant way. I think what's more likely to happen is there will hopefully be a few travel corridors open.
Travel corridors for people particularly who are saying, look, I've had my vaccination, I don't pose a risk, I have no risk myself, I should be allowed to travel.
Unfortunately, the World Health Organization and every authority has said repeatedly that just because you have the vaccination, they still do not know if you can get the virus and transmit it onto other people, which is quite common with lots of vaccinations. The vaccination means it reduces the chances of you getting and developing the symptoms, but you could still pass it on. And this is a real worry in lots of destinations around the world. So even though you're vaccinated, that doesn't mean other countries are going to be happy to let you in, particularly if they are struggling with their own levels of vaccination and their own COVID rates.
Now, many airlines, many travel agents have already been selling trips. So if you've bought one of those, what are your rights at the moment?
So until your trip is canceled, so until the government comes out and says, absolutely, you cannot travel on or after the 17th, no travel will be allowed until, whatever date they decide it might be. Unfortunately, you don't have any rights in law to a refund or to change your dates. However, many operators were quite flexible when people were making bookings, and so they imposed their own terms and conditions. So some operators said that if it looked like the trip was unlikely or you just felt uncomfortable and you wanted to change it, then you could go ahead and move it. But I would not move it unless you are with one of those, because what you could do is you could risk losing your deposit. Until the Foreign Office and until the government comes out and says, absolutely, you cannot travel, then you don't have a right to a refund or to change your dates.
Jill, all this is going to increase pressure for some sort of vaccination passport, isn't it? Or travel passport, so that those who can, as soon as possible, will be able to have the holiday that they've been craving, well, let's face it, for nearly 2 years now.
Of course, everybody is desperate for a vaccination passport. However, it's much more complex than people realize. When a lot of people compare it to yellow fever, but with yellow fever, there is one single vaccine. There's a passport that has been globally agreed by all the countries around the world. Currently, there are 12 approved vaccines globally, and there are 300 in the works. And so every country, you have to get every country to agree which vaccines it deems acceptable. So right now, China, for example, has said you will only be allowed into China if you have the vaccine that is the Chinese vaccine approved in China. The UK is saying, we've got these vaccines that we're happy with, but we're not happy with other vaccines. So it's much more complicated than people realize. What the EU is looking at right now is a combination passport where you would either have the vaccination passport or you would have COVID testing to allow more people to travel, because obviously the numbers of people vaccinated are still incredibly small. So really we need a multi-tiered approach to this.
Jill, we're being very cruel. We're showing pictures of some rather lovely beaches, and even if you hate crowds, you probably want to be there anyway. But in your heart of hearts, do you think foreign travel is going to be off the agenda this year altogether?
I think that there will be some corridors open. There are some countries that have very low cases of COVID who are very keen to get Brits back into the country. But that doesn't mean that there are also some countries who are like saying, come on, Brits, come on over. But the UK is like, well, you still have a big problem with your COVID rates there. So just because a country is desperate for the UK citizens to come over doesn't mean that there will be a two-way street. But I do think some will be worked out. But at the same time, we don't know yet what those are because it's a little bit too early in the game. So I'm hopeful that in a month or two, the government will go, look, we can safely say these countries have had either a very good level of vaccination or they have their levels really well under control, and we have a good plan for how to maintain that. So I'm hopeful there will be a few long haul destinations, or not even long haul, even short haul destinations. But I feel much more confident about UK holidays. So I do feel like UK holidays are likely to happen.
Frinton, here I come. Jill, thank you very much. Jill Starley-Grainger, thanks a lot.
Thank you.